Welcome to It's Your Business, a program designed to highlight our local small businesses. I'm your host, Veronica Douglas. Doing business with governmental agencies can be tricky. Products are sometimes procured differently than services, and oftentimes there are strict guidelines that must be followed in order to be successful. Joining us today is Julie Irvin Hartman, a certified proposal manager and consultant. Over the past 15 years, Julie has helped companies with projects in excess of $35 billion. From this experience, Julie has developed presentations focused on strategies for winning proposals, meeting compliance standards, and supplier diversity. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Veronica. It's my pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your business and how you got started.
I got started about 15 years ago when I was a marketing director for a real estate company, and the government decided to privatize military housing. So my first proposal was for Kirtland Air Force Base to build and renovate houses for the airmen and their families. And we won the first proposal I ever did, and got hooked and have been doing it ever since.
A $35 billion success rate, that is just unbelievable.
It's been over 15 years, and it's been a variety of proposals, from military housing to shipbuilding and ship maintenance to curriculum development to call centers and anything and everything in between.
Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into proposals. We're talking about proposals, but what is an RFP? What is a proposal? Break that down for us.
Sure. An RFP is a request for proposal, and each government entity has a different threshold of which they send out for RFP. So for example, Houston Community College has a $50,000 threshold, which means the project has to be $50,000 or more to send out a formal request for proposal. So what that does is that outlines when it's due, what they're looking for, how the proposal is going to be scored, as well as the criteria that the company who's going to submit it needs to follow as well as include.
And how is an RFP, request for proposal, different from an invitation for bid?
So an invitation to bid could be an informal, and they can only go after or request it from three agencies. Typically, an invitation to bid is less rigorous and has less requirements, as well as the date and time that it's due might be shorter. For example, 14 days for an invitation to bid versus 30 days or 60 days that you've got to put together a request for proposal.
And what public agencies have you put together RFPs for your clients?
Wow. I've done everything from the Department of Defense, which is military housing, to the Department of Treasury, to the City of Houston, to Houston Community College, to HISD, the Dallas Independent School District, and all the way over in the Middle East for a Crown Prince.
Oh, wow. How exciting is that?
That was very, very interesting, and that was actually for corrections training. So lots of exciting and variety, definitely.
So for your clients, once they find a request for proposal, let's start off, where should they look for these opportunities? Is this website? How do they find the opportunities?
So there's a couple different ways to find opportunities, and it really depends on what agency or entity that you want to do work with. And I always encourage clients to narrow it down to 5 and focus, just like you would do any business development opportunities. You will go out of business if you chase every RFP that's out there. So with Houston Community College, the current bids are under the procurement section of the website. If you're going after a state bid, that could be for Texas Department of Transportation or University of Texas MD Anderson, and the Texas Department of Parks and Wildlife, those types of things. There's a website called SBDP that you would go to. And then if you're interested in doing any federal work, then you go to FedBizOps.
So it sounds like you have to register on each website to receive the opportunities.
Correct, and that's why it's so important to focus on your efforts and to be laser focused, or you'll spend hours and hours being registered on all these different databases when those might be the may not be the best fit for you.
And so when registering, is it important to pick codes that directly relate to your business, or should you open it up and receive an abundance of emails about opportunities in different areas?
So with each government entity, you're going to be put into a database, and they'll either ask for your SIG codes for state entities or your NAICS codes for HCC or other federal. And so it's important to pick relative NAICS codes that specifically relate to your business. So if you're in architecture, then you're going to pick, interior and exterior architecture, or those things that are related to architecture. You're not going to just go off and choose janitorial services with that as well, because when you get the opportunities based on those NAICS codes, you want to make sure that you qualify.
And what kind of requirements are typically in proposals?
So each proposal will indicate the specific goods or services that they're looking for. They typically ask for past performance. They're looking for any 3 to 5 years of past performance of relative and relevant work. And just because you have work, say, in the commercial sector, but you haven't done work in the university sector, that's okay. It's the respondent's job to make sure to communicate to HCC how that work in the private sector can relate and applies to HCC. You'll also have references, and each entity will call and check on the references. So you're going to make sure that those are good references. They want to work with a financially sound company, so they'll typically ask for financials either during the submission or upon award. There'll be insurance requirements in every proposal, as well as they'll typically ask for a project organization chart, and these are the people that are going to be on the project, not the people within your organization. They don't want to know about your bookkeeper, and they don't want to know about your assistant. They want to know specifically about people on that project.
And what does your business do? How do you help them in submitting proposals?
So my business as a certified proposal consultant helps people find opportunities. We help them identify agencies that need their types of goods and services. And then once a proposal is out, then we help them respond. So we help them develop their strategy. We help them develop win themes, which are reasons why the entity should choose them. And we back that up with proof as well as differentiators.
So we talked in the beginning when we sat down earlier about the stop and the go, so when a business would know when to go forward with responding and when to stop. Talk to us about that.
Sure. So when you get an RFP, you're always going to want to look through it at least 2 different times, and that's active reading with highlighters as well as a pen to really go through and notate things as you go through it. And that's really when you're going to make your decision on whether you're going to go or no go. If it is part of your overall strategy and it's one of the 5 entities that you've identified with your business long-term play that you want to work with, even if you're not 100% qualified for that opportunity, you might go ahead and submit so the entity knows your name, they're familiar with the level of work that you do, and they know that you are very serious about pursuing a partnership together. And when you go to the no-go decision, maybe if you don't meet certain requirements, then you can go get a subcontractor or additional members of your team that will help you qualify.
So at what points, what do you need from them? Do you need financials? Do you need to go in and sit and talk to them? How do you make a decision that we're going to go forward, and what's required? How much time do you need to put together a proposal?
So typically a proposal takes anywhere between 20 to 40 hours, an average proposal that you have anywhere between 21 to 30 days to do. Now, if this is your first proposal and you've never done any type of government contracting before, you're looking at about a 60 to 80 hour investment. And I really stress the word investment because the materials that you're using for proposals, you can also use for your capability statements, you can use for your website, and you can use them to help qualify you for other additional work.
So when a pre-proposal, an RFP is let from an agency, there's pre-proposal conferences. How important is it to attend a conference, and what should the responder ask?
So pre-proposal conferences are amazing, and I encourage all of my clients to go to a pre-proposal conference, even if we haven't made the decision if we're going to go after the pursuit or not. They're a great way to network. A lot of people think that your competitors will go to the pre-proposal conference, so therefore you shouldn't. And that's actually a paradigm shift needs to occur, because there's so many great opportunities out there that your competitor today might be your ally tomorrow, and you might be a subcontractor to their team, or they might be a subcontractor to your team. The agencies at pre-proposal conferences provide a more in-depth explanation to the proposal. They're available to answer questions, to reply to your questions with great answers. And then after the conference, they post the attendee sign up, so that allows you additional opportunities to network with people for other opportunities, not only with HCC, but with other agencies.
And at HCC, we actually have our small businesses stand up and introduce themselves to the group, as well as we like to make sure that they have the certification we require. Because some agencies take, maybe a certification from the city and metro, and others don't. So being certified and knowing what certifications you have and what certifications the agencies accept is very important.
It is, and like you said, HCC really encourages and promotes small businesses, and that's critical to these large prime contractors to know that there are qualified small businesses that are ready to do government contracting that they may not have known about. And like I said, if HCC is one of your top 5 agencies that you want to do business with, it's great to meet the buyers, it's great to meet you and the other members of the procurement team, to really start putting a name with a face, with an email address, with a company.
So at HCC, we have a blackout period, which is also known as the Code of Silence. Tell us the importance of the Code of Silence.
The Code of Silence is critical, and all government agencies use that. And so once the RFP has been released or hit the streets, the only way that you can submit questions and answers is through an email address, and that allows equal and fair submission to everyone who's interested. And if you have like a small business question or a percentage question, then they can reach out to you and your team. But questions regarding the scope, the pricing, the services, or anything specific to that RFP, you have to follow those rules or you'll get disqualified.
And when we talk about pricing, is there a way that respondents can actually find out the previous pricing or the current pricing on something if they want to go after a project for a governmental entity?
They can, and most people don't know about that. So since it has public funding associated with it, you can actually request the incumbents submission through an opens records request, and there's a process to do that. That's also a great question to ask during the question and answer period in the Code of Silence. And when you're pricing, you definitely want to make a profit. That's not a dirty word. And a lot of people will, if they're new to government contracting, will price it just so they get their foot in the door. And that's actually one of the worst things that you can do, because once you've been awarded, HCC wants to continue to promote and continue to work with that reliable vendor. And when that is up for award again or renewal, you want to continue with that vendor. And so if they're pricing their products or services and not making a profit, they're less likely to renew. Therefore, everybody's got to start the process all over again.
Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to follow up on our conversation about how you can actually profit from submitting on projects for the government agencies. We will take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to continue our conversation with Julie Irvin Hartman.
I've seen people's lives change just by attending a class at HCC.
Some of them might not have the financial means to go to a 4-year university. That doesn't make them any less quote-unquote smart than the kids who go to a 4-year school.
HCC is easy to get to. It's easy to apply and easy to become a part of.
It gave me so much confidence.
Once you finish your 2 years there, you can transition into a 4-year university or go into the workforce.
It's affordable, it's accessible, it changes lives.
I am a veteran. My victory was finding the strength to be a champion.
My victory is having a job I can be proud of.
At DAV, we help veterans get the benefits they've earned.
My victory was finishing my education.
My victory was getting help to put our lives back together.
DAV provides veterans with a lifetime of support.
My victory is being there for my family.
Help us support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
I don't know an industry today that doesn't rely on some amount of coding to run their business. Coding is the 21st century equivalent of the English language. And our particular flavor of this is the iOS Coding and Design School. And Apple's been very supportive and in fact joined with us to roll out the start of this Swift programming initiative. So it's a great opportunity to combine creativity with science and technology, contributing to this app economy.
We're back, and let's finish our conversation, Julie. We were talking about how our business owners can actually know that they're making a profit on an RFP.
So when you look at the proposal, there will be a pricing as well as all of the requirements that a business needs to take into consideration with the pricing. And so you'll look at how much it will take to actually produce the goods or services, as well as project manage the goods and services. If you need to set up any new billing or any new technology infrastructure in order to support the RFP after you've won, then you need to make sure to take all of those things into consideration.
So if the project's too big and you don't think you can handle it, right then that's a no.
That would be a no, but that would be a great opportunity to go and look at a prime who does have, say, the bonding capacity, the insurance, the previous experience, and that's great when you're at these mandatory proposal meetings, and you can also hand everyone there your capability statement, which is a one-page resume on your business.
Okay, and how important is that?
It is so critical. Nobody wants a big, brochure with a pocket folder with inserts in this type of business, if you're doing business to government. And so there are one pages, we've got some samples that will show, and that really talks about who to contact, what your capabilities are, what your NAICS codes are, your revenue for the last couple years, maybe one or two references, and your value proposition. What makes you different than the competition? And you've got to be able to back up your value proposition with proof. And you also need to make sure to talk about the reach. Are you only in Houston? Are you throughout Texas, or are you throughout the nation? Those types of things, so that procurement officers, contracting officers, and primes can look very quickly and get the information that they need to make sure to include you on their team.
So the capability statement, that's a service you offer.
I do. And, talking back about certifications, you also want to make sure to include all of your certifications on your capability statement. So if you're networking at any event, whether that's a procurement breakfast or a pre-bid meeting or wherever, everyone is looking for good, qualified, certified small businesses.
So there's a little bit more that goes into actually responding. When you respond to an RFP, you have to be responsive and responsible. Tell us about the difference.
Correct. And so those are the two R's. So responsive means how well do you follow directions? And this is the first way that HCC and other entities are able to make the two stacks. The one stack that doesn't really get looked at much longer, and then the stack that makes it to the next round. So how well do you follow instructions? If it says 50 pages, are you at 50 pages? Did you include 53? If you included 53, you didn't make the list. Each proposal has a very specific way that they want it organized in tabs. So did you include the tabs? If you didn't, once again, you're not going to make the cut. So it really helps the evaluators as well as HCC see who's serious about doing work. So when you're responsible, as well as responsive, that means how well did you address the underlying needs? How well did you answer the questions? How well did you communicate to HCC that you are the vendor of choice and should be chosen and given an opportunity for this project?
And responsible means you can follow through.
You can follow through, exactly. And that's making sure that you're proofing your proposal, that you're not grabbing boilerplate information off of your website, that you really looked at the proposal, looked at the solution that you can provide and catered it to Houston Community College.
And there's two other terms that are very important, addendum and amendment.
Correct.
What's the difference?
So those are two things that will be issued after the formal RFP. So an addendum is an addition, and I always remember ADD, right? So an addendum is an addition to the original RFP. And so that could add scope, it could add different things that you might need to include in the proposal, and an amendment makes an actual change in the RFP. So that might change the due date, that might change the scope. So for example, if we were gonna renovate 2 floors here at 3100 Main, an amendment might say, oops, now it's going to be 3 floors, or change the duration that the contract needs to be done in.
So if a small business wants to contract with you, do you attend the pre-bid meeting or do you submit the final documents?
I do everything from helping find opportunities to helping make the decisions of the go, no-go, to helping develop the strategies, attending the meetings, absolutely. I think that's very, very critical. And then once we've made the decision to go ahead and move forward on the proposal, and that's helping write the proposal, that's helping do the graphics, the org charts, the tables, helping actually lay out the proposal and making it very easy to read. We try to make sure that when we're doing a proposal that the evaluators can score the majority of the points on the first page within every section. Then we review it at least twice. So we go through as a team, myself and the client's representatives, going through and refining the strategy, making sure that we can get the maximum number of points, and most importantly, that it's responsive and responsible.
So we're talking about several weeks where you'll sit down and talk with them about the strategy.
In a perfect world, several weeks would be great. We've done proposals within a week. I've done proposals that have taken a total of 8 months. So we adjust accordingly to the time schedule, but the majority of proposals would take 30 days.
And you brought some sample proposals with you today. Tell us a little bit maybe about the formatting. What's important? Point some things out to us in responding to a proposal.
So in responding to a proposal, you want to make sure that the entity knows that it's you right on the cover page. Each entity will say exactly what needs to be included on a proposal. Like I said, it'll say, you know, what types of tabs you'll need specifically and how it needs to be ordered. Then we go through and we actually get the content and make sure that it's visually pleasing. If you were an evaluator and you got 10 proposals and every page was just words and words and words, it's human nature that it's going to start glazing over. The majority of the proposals that we submit are electronic, and they'll ask just for 1 copy, whereas years ago, I remember producing 50 to 100 copies of proposals and delivering ginormous boxes, which was quite crazy. You always want to make sure that you include, like I said, an organizational chart. Here's an example of an organizational chart, which really puts the state of Hawaii at the center, as well as in the Hawaii community. So this proposal was to move and build prisons in the various islands in Hawaii. They currently ship off their prisoners to Arizona, and so we came up with the whole name and strategy of a place for transformation to bring those prisoners and those inmates home so that they're a little bit more supported by their local community.
And do you suggest that your clients mark this proprietary information?
Absolutely. So when you submit a proposal, it's for public record. If there are sections of your proposal that are proprietary, that you need to make sure that are not shared, then I would definitely mark it. Keep in mind that any of your financial information, no institution's gonna share with anyone else. So you don't need to reiterate and mark that. But if your pricing, if you have some patent, or if there is a process of the way that you do something that truly is your intellectual property, then I would encourage you to mark that.
So talk to us a little bit about some of your success stories where you have helped businesses become successful in responding to proposals.
Wow, there's been a lot of them. The last couple years, I helped with Fort Bend Independent School District. There was a lady, and she had done quite a bit of vending in the private sector and had been awarded 1-year contract with A-Leaf, and we helped her submit to a vending contract with Fort Bend ISD, and they split the contract between her and the incumbent, and that's pretty common as well because Fort Bend or any entity really wants to minimize their risk. So she was awarded a $500,000 contract for 5 years.
Wow.
So that's a huge win. I've helped a company do a development in an old healthcare community outside of Oklahoma City, and so it's a whole renovation and redevelopment of a building that used to be a hospital, and now they're going to make that office buildings, and they're going to flank it with apartment communities, shopping, and mixed-use office. And so that was a $26 million proposal that was awarded in 2015. I think one of the ones that was the most nearest and dearest to my heart, being an Air Force child, growing up and living in base housing, was helping my client secure 21 different installations to renovate and build military housing. And so it's an entire community with a pool and a community center. So they developed it, financed it, building it, as well as maintaining it for 50 years.
And if I could just point something out, I noticed on the cover you have clearly stated the proposal name, the respondent's name, as well as your name and when the proposal is due.
Correct.
So it's important to have that information up front to make sure that you are in the right stack and you actually submit on time. Because again, submitting on time, if you're not on time, you will not be able to respond to the proposal.
And that's one of the most disheartening stories that I hear is people who are new at this and don't take the rules and the criteria seriously. All of those rules are there for a reason, the reason why we have the tabs, why there are page limits, why they're asking for specific things in specific areas, why pricing needs to be its own section. Sometimes if you're interested in doing state work, you've got a hub utilization plan that is opened up first, and if that's not compliant, the rest of your proposal isn't even looked at.
And you're also a well sought after speaker. Tell us some of the topics you speak on.
I speak on, obviously, proposals. That's one of my passions. I speak on entrepreneurship. I speak on women's leadership as well as overall marketing.
And you do a lot for Jeanette at Fort Bend ISD. Is that monthly that you typically go and talk about the proposal process? Last year
it was monthly. She's changed her platform to quarterly. I also do sessions for the University of Houston, their historic utilized business division. I'm doing a session on April the 10th for them, as well as 2 other workshop sessions where we're going to take a University of Houston proposal and dissect it from start all the way to finish in a 4-hour workshop. I've done workshops as well for the Houston Independent School District, and then I'm a guest speaker and I do proposal secrets for the procurement breakfast, and that's going to be quarterly as well.
And you've also participated in the Interagency Mentor Protege program, where you gave a training seminar on proposal responses as well.
I did, and that was a wonderful experience to actually be a protege, go through the program, really bond with other small businesses, and then come back to the next cohort and do a presentation on proposals and helping them prepare for their presentation, which is one of the last things in that program. And that's getting ready to kick up again.
It is. So in closing, tell our viewers how they can contact you.
You can contact me by emailing me at julie@juliehartman.com or calling me at 832-541-5557.
Julie, thanks for coming on today and providing insight in the proposal process, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks so much, Veronica. My pleasure.
For more information on the Small Business Development Program, please visit our website for It's Your Business. I'm your host, Veronica Douglas.